He is enveloped in a golden glow, and in his hand, instead of an axe, he has a pike. Charlie grimaces, noticing that the opponent is stronger, as is the surrounding holy aura that resists death energy. And from behind, two priests appear, one of whom shouts that they have a chance and wants to stop the enemy. Charlie smirks as he turns around, deciding that since he can't reach the warrior with the pike, he'll finish off his support. But the man under protection doesn't want to feel useless either, attacking the guy from behind, and several more priests join them. There is a roar nearby, and the wall of one of the buildings collapses, spitting out a stream of filth. Along with him, corpses engulfed in it, dressed in priestly robes, fall out onto the platform, the filth dancing on them like tongues of flame. Charlie smiles, calling for Loza to help and noting that it's time to get started. He sends his loyal army of skeletons into attack, and they begin moving towards the city in a special formation. A squad of armed soldiers awaits at the gate, but this does not stop the undead. In the battle for the harbor, about 2 million followers of the church die, and 3 holy legions are completely destroyed. However, they still manage to significantly reduce the number of the undead army. Charlie loses 15 million of his fearless warriors. A voice comes from within the building, its owner believing that such a large number of losses were beyond his expectations. The bishop lowers his head guiltily, admitting his mistake, because of him, the Holy Order suffered catastrophic losses. The man is confused as to whether he should continue to fight or whether it would be better to admit defeat. An interlocutor enters the room and says that he is ready to help the man fight off the attack of the undead. The priest is frightened, asking who is here besides him, and turning sharply sees a grinning Tart. Warriors of light try to patch up their wounds during the temporary lull and clear away the rubble. But their joy does not last long, one of the soldiers reports, seeing the enemy, that the undead are attacking again. Charlie gives a ruthless order to kill everyone. Sometime later, the undead fill the nearby streets of the city. The skeletons push forward, destroying everyone in their path. A projection of the bishop appears in front of her. She frowns, calling the undead pathetic, and she looks puzzled. The patriarch suggests stopping voluntarily. Perhaps in that case, God will agree to stop his righteous judgment and spare. The undead are not only perplexed by these words, something appears in front of them. A squad of Tart's warriors appears in front of the army of the dead, and then his voice is heard, filled, as usual, with arrogance. Charlie frowns at the enemy creatures, calling them copperheads. He doesn't want to believe that the local patriarch has united with his enemy. Meanwhile, the Steel Knights are roaming the battlefield with all their might, destroying the skeletons one after another in a variety of ways. The priests are inspired by such heroism and join the creatures of their savior, wishing to drive out the undead once and for all. Charlie's patience runs out and he decides to summon the Bone Giant. He falls from the sky immediately and, surrounded by the filth that strengthens him, attacks the enemy. It doesn't take much of his effort to break the knights. They die just like the little undead a little earlier. But behind the wreckage of the Steel Knights, a dark shadow with a red eye appears, and then they, circling, disappear into its funnel. A moment later, the combined knight rushes at the Bone Giant, landing the first blow and pushing it back. The patriarch orders Tartu to continue releasing his Steel Knights. No matter how many sources it takes, the order will provide. The guy smirks contentedly, expressing understanding. Once again, the horde of Steel Knights rushes to attack. The guy remembers his negotiations with the patriarch about providing the sources. At first, he was wary of the stranger, but Tart decided to take the man by manipulation, pressing on the most painful part, the fear of the merciless lord of the undead. The patriarch walks through the streets, preceded by several priests of lower rank, who exterminate the undead at his command. Charlie realizes that if things continue like this, he will lose his entire army, in which case it would be wiser to retreat. He does so, giving orders to each of his warriors. The skeletons gather behind their master, looking back. Flora asks what Charlie will do next, since the Order of Light has secured Tart's support and is protected by his knights. Charlie is angry, regretting that he did not deal with his classmate earlier, and the girl notes that the situation has changed not in their favor. The Minotaurs and werewolves, seeing the church's success, began to suck up to it, but the guy plans to deal with them later. A skeleton comes up to them and says that the King of Men has sent a messenger to them. Charlie is surprised. He has a bad feeling, but the guy still asks to bring the parliamentarian to him. Chess says that the king agrees to the conditions and asks not to attack. The interlocutor notes that he turned out to be wiser than the others. The blonde smiles slyly, wondering what his classmate intends to do with this holy order. The answer is a temporary lull. Charlie is going to deal with the other enemies for now. Chess joins in, also sharing that he has come across the trail of what they are looking for. Charlie finishes his preparations and sends his slightly thinned army of skeletons straight to the werewolf kingdom. The war lasts only 5 days, as the werewolves have no effective weapons against the rebirth of the undead and the Black Death. They quickly die, unable to fight off the enemy invasion. The result of the battle is that the army of skeletons is replenished with 12 million werewolves. The kingdom of werewolves itself completely disappears from the face of this world. Charlie stands before the king of the Minotaurs with a superior smile, and the latter, falling to his knees, promises to do whatever he asks. Smiling contentedly and folding his arms across his chest, the boy notes that all 10 rune words that he was given belong to the highest category, but his capabilities in this regard are limited, and he will have to choose only the most useful ones. He makes his choice by touching the words with his fingers. The guy's choice falls on the Emperor, War Fury, Nature, and a rune that improves all attributes by 500%. Charlie flies into the air in a blue-violet tornado, feeling like he has become much stronger. The supreme runes are a completely different level. Smiling with anticipation, he orders his undead to attack Light's Haven, intending to wash away the shame of last time. The army, ready to immediately carry out absolutely any order of its god, immediately forms up and moves from its place, raising its weapons. Charlie's gaze becomes serious at the memory of Tart. He is firmly convinced that his classmate will not get away with it this time. Upon reaching the Harbor of Light, he and Chess look around in surprise. There is no one around. An undead bodyguard stands nearby just in case. The blonde is the first to speak up. He can't believe there's not a soul around and wonders what could have happened here. Charlie is also puzzled. He approaches one of the bodies to examine and says that it looks like these people were beaten with fists. Suddenly he hears a strange, weak voice mentioning the Steel Knights, and he turns around abruptly. Ches also doesn't want to stay on the sidelines and echoes his classmate, and amazement freezes on both of their faces. The voice comes from around the corner, addressing Charlie with a question, asking if he is the Lord of the Undead. Following the sound, the boy finds the source of the voice and sees a bishop lying face down on the ground, Blood splattered around him. Both young men run up to the patriarch, and one of them impatiently asks where Tart is, while the other watches the unpleasant picture in silence. The man replies that the former ally left, having first emptied the treasury of the Holy Order. Along with this, the guy took away all the sources of dimension and ordered his creatures to kill all the servants. The priest is thirsty for revenge. Chess looks at him with disapproval, noticing that the man himself let this wild wolf into his house. But these words hang in the air without an answer. The priest gives up his last breath, and some things become clear to Charlie. The Order did not react to the invasion of the werewolf kingdom in any way, because by that time it had been destroyed. Chess thinks that it's too late to do anything, and Charlie is not going to leave this place empty-handed. He wants to take at least the light crystals. One of the guys thinks that it is better not to let down one's guard, since it is unknown how many traps are hidden in these ancient ruins. Before the treasure hunters appears a rune in pink light, around which several transparent spheres, embraced by the same color, float. Chess explains that he asked his creatures to mark all the important places in advance, so they wouldn't have to go blind. In other areas, there are arrows highlighted in blue indicating a safe direction, but something is going wrong. Chess turns around sharply, sensing something was wrong before his companion, and tells him to take care of himself. A silhouette appears next to them. The thing that appeared before them outnumbered the students by almost 2.5 times, and they all turned their attention to it so as not to get confused. Something takes the form of a ball and begins to spin rapidly, choosing Charlie as its target, who jumps aside in time. The guy's look is determined. He uses the highest rune, Emperor, increasing all his skills by 100. The creature jumps out of the round form, standing in front of the man at full height. Noticing this, Chess praises his classmate, admiring the fact that he mastered the power of the highest rune so quickly. He really likes the Emperor's aura. They successfully manage to deal with the creature, and the guys continue on their way. There are now 2 guards on the way, similar to the previous one, and Charlie uses another higher rune, Nature. It allows communication with any creature, and he addresses the couple, saying that they are not here to destroy and plunder, but for a test. But the creatures don't react, leaving Charlie with no choice, and he jumps into the air, deciding to get his way another way. He forms energy in his hand and attacks the guard standing in front of him, who, due to the force of the blow, is inertially pushed back. Another one appears on the way, and Charlie, using enlargement, becomes several times larger, equal to the thug. He strikes his opponent in the chest with a sweeping motion, his gaze sharp and focused. But an unpleasant surprise awaits the guy. 3 more guards appear on his way, and he is momentarily at a loss, frozen in indecision. Chess exhales in dismay, expressing his frustration out loud. He had expected that his rivals had run out of options. The boys stand motionless in front of the guards, and one of the creatures decides to take the initiative into his own hands, giving in to the uninvited guests. This time, Charlie decides to deal with things differently. He calls the Skeleton Knights, who immediately appear before their master. Chess also does not want to stay on the sidelines. Calling on his creatures for help, several foxmen appear behind the guy. Both creatures rush at the guards at the wave of their owner's hands and begin to attack, while the latter take a defensive position. As he retreats, Chess praises himself for deciding to take Charlie with him. Without his classmate, he could have simply been wiped out. Entering the room with islands, above which energy clots with runes rise, Chess says that this is the very miracle they were looking for. If they can pass the tests that are prepared for them, they will not only ascend to the rank of demigods, but will also receive the corresponding rune words. There's a loud sound from behind, and turning around, the students notice that the door leading back to the exit is locked. There is no turning back now, and Charlie suggests starting the first test. Chess, with a sly smile, breaks ahead. He rushes straight to the rune that he has chosen for himself, believing that it is the best fit for him. Disappearing into the portal and waving goodbye to his classmate with a fox-like smile, Chess recommends that he not linger either. Charlie frowns, feeling slightly annoyed that his companion had chosen his challenge so quickly. But almost immediately, his mind cools down. The guy approaches the portal he chose himself. It's time for him to begin his test. Charlie finds himself on cracked, windswept land with rocky terrain. These lands are covered by the curse of hunger. In order to survive here, you will have to constantly eat something. The guy's stomach rumbles indignantly, confirming, and he thinks that the name for the curse is appropriate, but he is not going to die of hunger. He tries to contact his divine sphere, but the attempt fails, and the thought arises that in this dimension this possibility is blocked. Behind him, the guy notices 2 suspicious dark shadows and becomes wary, wondering what it is. The answer comes quickly. The silhouettes belong to the starving, undead born from those who died of hunger. This could be a problem. This dimension is empty. Charlie assumes that the creatures standing before him are not only enemies, but also food. The starving people are not going to silently look at the uninvited guest and rush at him, seizing the right moment. The guy is saved by the undead who arrive in time. One of the Skeleton Knights cuts off the enemy's right limb, capturing part of the body. Charlie fishes out seeds from his inventory and, filling them with his energy, throws them into the air in the desired direction. They sink into the soil, sparkling with the divine power they are filled with, and soon a green sprout breaks through the earth. The seeds grow into a dahlia flower and dragon grass, forming a combined ghost vine with Charlie sitting in the center. He admits that he is capable of murder, but not cannibalism. The guy wants to call upon plants to saturate his body with nutrients. At this time, his undead will take care of the starving to ensure his own safety. The guy's look is determined. Charlie can clearly sense the suffocating aura emanating from the local undead, but decides to trust his creatures. He decides to hibernate and remain in this state for 30 days, because the energy costs here are astronomical. But there is still concern. Although I would like to hope that nothing serious will happen during all this time, somewhere else houses are smoking. The Steel Knights walk over the debris sticking out on the ground, crushing everything in their path and flashing their terrifying red eyes. Tart stands over the fallen body and rejoices in his victory. The kingdom of people now belongs to him too. His Steel Knights destroyed all obstacles in the path of their god in the form of the Holy Order and the kingdoms of Minotaurs and humans. The guy smiles slyly, believing that the Elven Kingdom will not be able to maintain its magical barriers for long, and that it too will soon be destroyed. There is a heavy tread, and the Steel Knights are bringing someone to the master, holding her by the hands on both sides. This girl, Flora. Tart pretends that this is a surprise for him and touches the girl's cheek with his hand, saying that now she belongs to him too, she threatens. The guy's face turns angry. He says that Charlie will not come to her aid because he will not return alive from another dimension or will become very weak. Turning around and smiling slyly, Tart orders his classmate to be locked in the dungeon, and she says that he won't get away with it. One of the creatures reports that Lily has pushed Cyan back to the mountain gorge on the border of the kingdom, as his master ordered. Tart smiles an even crazier smile. He didn't expect less from his classmate, because she is greedy for money and is ready to do anything for it. Clenching his fist triumphantly, the student promises that this time Kian will not leave him. Somewhere in the mountains, a loud explosion is heard, scattering fragments of rock into the air, and smoke envelops the surrounding area. Steel knights fight other creatures that resemble stone golems with crystalline inclusions. Cyan, who is watching the battle from the sidelines, sees this as an opportunity for herself, as this way she can escape under the noise. Another explosion is heard nearby, and the girl looks up in confusion, trying to find the source with her eyes. She doesn't understand what's happening. A smiling Tart appears nearby, who, approaching Kian, says that now she cannot worry about anything. He drove away the enemy. The girl thanked her classmate in a crumpled voice, and he, smiling slyly, said that it wasn't worth it, that it was worth nothing to him. Cyan turns to face her bird, about to leave, and Tart is at a loss, asking the obvious question of whether she is going to leave. He comes closer to her, not intending to let her go, since he spent a lot of money on this scene, and offers to join forces to overthrow the remaining ones. Tart and Lily discuss their deal. The girl asks to transfer the rest of the promised amount, and the guy promises to do it after one more favor. She must let her classmate destroy his army of stone giants with the steel knights. The girl notices that this is not what they agreed on, and the guy begins to blackmail her, threatening to kill the army even more shamefully. Lily tries to save at least some of her honor by asking to take away at least half of the army, and puts forward the condition of doubling the second half of the promise. She can no longer refuse so easily, but if her classmate agrees to these conditions, the deal will still be successful, and he agrees. With a slight strain, Cyan, being polite, says that she appreciates Tart's efforts and help, but she has her own ideas and goals. The guy acts meanly, lying that his blood demon has already killed Charlie, whom the girl wanted to find. She frowns. Cyan can't stand slander against a person she cares about and parries the cruel words. The guy couldn't die so easily. Tart tries to object to her, but the girl adamantly says that she does not intend to continue this conversation, and says goodbye to her interlocutor. But he doesn't let his classmate leave so easily. The girl's golden bird is grabbed by several steel knights. Cyan, frowning angrily, turns to Tartu, asking what he is doing, and he threatens, saying that he is now the strongest here. Golden feathers fly through the air, and the boy lifts the girl above him by the throat, telling her to stop resisting. Tears well up in the girl's eyes, and with all her might she begs Charlie to come to her aid and save her. The boy screams and opens his eyes in the arms of his plants, realizing that what he just saw was nothing more than a dream. But he is interested in how Kian is actually doing. They haven't seen each other for a long time, and then he glances at his hand and realizes that he has lost a lot of weight. The local undead continue to battle his own, and their master emerges from his makeshift lair. A sly smile appears on the guy's face when he realizes that 30 days have flown by so quickly. The highest rune, Hunger, comes into play, allowing the owner to take control of the energy exchange of creatures. Smiling, the guy looks at her, burning in his hand blue and blue. And a moment later, he feels his body fill with a strange, previously unknown energy. The smile on his lips becomes jubilant. Charlie finally reaches the rank of demigod. He looks at his hands, unable to believe it. The guy thinks it's time to get down to business and takes his undead with him, entering the portal. Frowning, Charlie reaches out his hand towards the exit of this unfriendly dimension. Landing on solid ground and looking at the new energy, the guy wants to check how the increase in rank affected his performance. He's upset. They only gave him one new divine ability. Fortunately, they at least raised the natural-born warrior rank. But that's not important now. The main thing is that he managed to obtain the title of demigod in the outer world. The guy can't wait to absorb divinity. Something makes him uneasy, and Charlie glances back to where a portal is beginning to form out of nowhere. Soon, a familiar blonde head appears from the portal, and Charlie's eyes widen at the sight of it, and he steps back. Chess falls onto his friend's lap and, with a dizzy head, lifts his finger up, saying that it seems he has become a demigod. Charlie notes that his classmate completed the test faster than he expected, but he is no use in his current state. He recommends his friend to sleep and, in proud solitude, goes to the steps. It seems to him that someone has come. Lily gives the order to her creatures. They enter into a fight with the guards of this place. The stone colossus rushes into battle. Charlie emerges from the cave, asking his classmate, who is surprised by his appearance, what she is doing there. But the girl is happy. She says that she has information about Cyan, and the exchange for it will cost 10,000 dimension sources. The guy immediately gives his interlocutor the necessary amount and rushes her with an answer, and she is seriously surprised. Lily is angry with herself, believing that she should have asked for more, but admits that Cyan is now locked up, and she herself cannot free herself from captivity. A classmate shares a more precise location, also saying who exactly is the one who captured Cyan. Charlie is outraged. He transforms into a black dragon and sets off in search of his girlfriend, looking for her wherever he can. Finally, the boy finds the first clue, the dead bodies of his classmates' storm sparrows. He closes his eyes and concentrates, wanting to find traces of Cyan's aura. Something is fishy. Charlie is gritting his teeth in anger. He can't catch the girl's aura at all. Suddenly, something behind him catches his attention. A lightning-fast blue flash flashes past, and the guy turns around sharply. A golden feather flies past, and Charlie realizes that its owner is the golden storm sparrow. The guy approaches the cliff and looks down, and an unpleasant sight appears before his eyes. The steel knights of Tartu are holding back the golden storm sparrow Cyan with all their might, and he is trying with all his might to break free. Charlie rushes forward, activating the highest rune, the Emperor's aura. The seal is placed on his body, filling it with energy. One of the steel knights turns sharply, leaving the bird alone, and having transformed, directs his gaze at the enemy. Charlie grits his teeth in barely contained anger and moves on to more decisive action. He activates a unique rune, Hunger, causing the attacking and already exhausted steel knight to fall to his knees. The golden storm sparrow glances at his assistant in amazement and pushes away the enemy creatures holding him. Charlie flies up to the bird and growls angrily, ordering him to take him to Cyan. They can't waste time. Sparrow is puzzled. Sometime later, they are already heading to save the girl. The guy is sitting on the bird's back already in his usual form. The gaze involuntarily clings to a small cave with a burning interior, and the bird and the flyer head straight there. A man's hand pulls the clothes off a woman's shoulder. Kian asks his tormentor to let her go. Tart looms over the girl with a platonic smile, continuing his actions and asking if Cayenne is tired of playing hard to get. Charlie, who had arrived just in time, tossed a stone into the air and sent it towards the tyrant with poorly concealed anger. The stone hits Tart on the head from behind, and the guy's face distorts with bewilderment. He doesn't even have time to fully feel the pain yet. Holding the back of his head, he turns around in shock towards the exit, asking who dared to enter here without his permission. The boy's eyes widen at the sight of a familiar face, and he asks in bewilderment how this is possible, since he thought Charlie was dead. The latter can no longer contain his rage, and rushing towards his classmate strikes him, threatening to kill him. Tart, wiping the blood from his face, expresses joy that he will be able to get rid of his rival with his own hands. But Charlie has a different opinion on this matter. He activates a unique rune, Hunger, which appears right above the target, absorbing its juices. Tart falls to his knees and clutches his stomach, grimacing. He begins to feel an unimaginable hunger and wonders why. Due to the effort he put into maintaining consciousness and awareness, beads of sweat roll down the guy's face, and Charlie approaches, drilling his opponent with a merciless gaze. A red aura begins to form around the latter. Unable to contain himself any longer, Tart folds in half, spilling the contents of his stomach onto the ground. Raising his head to his classmate with the last of his strength, he squeezes out the words, denying that he has become a demigod. With cold determination, Charlie raises his sword, saying that the demon that Tart sent for his soul has become his humble slave. The swordsman says that he will now allow the demonic power to be tested on the enemy and swings. The latter's eyes widen. After defeating the enemy, Charlie approaches Cayenne and kneels next to her, hugging her and telling her that it's all over. The girl, her clothes slightly torn, looks at her savior with embarrassment and thanks him with all her heart. Charlie carries his classmate out of the cave in his arms, and is met with a heartbreaking sight of the Steel Knights. Now that Tart is gone, his creatures cannot find his traces and become nothing more than puppets without a puppeteer. Charlie stands on the Golden Storm Sparrow's back, not letting go of the latter's owner from his embrace, and they leave this place. Charlie asks Cayenne how she feels. She is already better. She asks, in turn, if the guy really became a demigod. Charlie confirms this, and the girl expresses her sincere congratulations and joy for him. He offers Cayenne his help so that she too can rise. But the girl expresses concern about whether the dimension sources will be enough. The guy reminds us of the abandoned lands of this world, and smiling, suggests trying our luck there. They fly over the desired mines, and Charlie offers to collect them all in order to later fish out what they need using the disintegration mechanism. An ominous roar is heard, and Cayenne, who noticed the source first, asks to look in the direction of the sound and her classmate. Below them stands a bear-like monster, with ultrasound-like waves radiating from its mouth throughout the area. Charlie smiles slyly, asking the creature not to growl. He says that he is not going to share the dimension ore with him. Cayenne is puzzled. Turning around, the guy asks the girl to wait, and she, frowning with displeasure, asks why he should risk it alone. Cayenne snaps her fingers with a satisfied look, and her birds, gathering together, begin to circle above the bear. Among the storm sparrows is the golden, and it will fearlessly dive down on an enemy creature, razor-sharp claws out to attack. The undead Charlie comes to the aid of the sparrows, appearing as if from nowhere, surrounding the bear from all sides and taking over with numbers. An aggressively disposed creature begins to emit an unpleasant aura, the clouds of which become almost tangible. An eerie aura surrounds the creature from head to toe, and it resolutely moves towards its kinsman standing nearby. Without thinking twice, it sinks its fangs into the bear's shoulder, and its eyes, instead of red, glow acid green. The creature does this with several more opponents until it achieves the desired result. This is how the absorption of the sources of dimension occurs, and the satisfied students rejoice at the success of their idea. It worked perfectly. Charlie stands next to Cayenne. They are surrounded by undead with spears and a golden storm sparrow. The young man speaks first. He notes that they will have to stay late to collect ore and extract the dimensional sources and asks if the girl minds his company. She says she doesn't mind, and Charlie's creatures begin their work, laboring for the joy of their venerable god. Cayenne suggests going to the ancient ruins. They have been stuck here for 10 days, but Charlie notices that she has only just recovered from her wounds. Chess appears out of nowhere, jumping up and down cheerfully and announcing to those present that he had slept well. Cayenne is amazed. She shyly greets her classmate, who is perplexed as to when they managed to get along and asks about their common location. Charlie shares with Chess the information he received about what the late Tart did here during their absence. When the blonde learns that his former classmate destroyed almost all the kingdoms and killed the human princess, he becomes furious. Chess is puzzled by how Tart managed to mess up everything in just a couple of months of his absence, and is saddened when he remembers his princess. But he soon comes to his senses, noticing that the dead can no longer be brought back, and he was also close to the Elf Queen, which means he needs to help her. After saying goodbye to his classmates, Chess leaves them, and Cayenne says that she didn't know he was so caring, and also talks about his girlfriends. The next moment, the girl expresses concern that the Tart family will take revenge on Charlie, but he is more worried about the Academy's punishment. At the same moment, a hologram of teacher Lena appears nearby. She tells the students in a strict tone to urgently return to the Academy. This is very important. The girl asks Charlie not to worry, promising that she will be there. A man's fist hits a hard surface with a deafeningly loud sound. Tart's father stands in front of Lena and pokes her with his finger, saying that Charlie must pay for the murder of his son, while a woman cries nearby. The guy carefully says that now is not the best time for Cayenne to participate in the test. Her wounds have only just healed. But the girl, smiling, says that this is not for him. She dreamed of becoming a student at the Academy, having first risen to the rank of demigod. The guy is about to say something else, but Cayenne silences him by placing her finger on his lips and assures him that she will be okay. Disappearing into the depths of the portal, the girl says goodbye to the guy. They agree to return to the Academy together as soon as the test is passed. But Charlie is being cunning, smiling. He orders the undead that appeared nearby to protect his classmate. They nod in agreement and readily enter the portal after the girl. The guy comes to that same portal a whole month later and wonders why Cayenne still hasn't come out of it. The skeletons he sent didn't return either, and Charlie frowns and suggests that something might have happened to his classmate. He realizes that there's no point in waiting any longer and takes a decisive step forward into the portal. The guy is immediately met by the familiar guards, and the bodies of dead storm sparrows are scattered all over the area. Charlie takes on the form of a black dragon, and with determination in his eyes, orders his enemies to get out of his way. The creatures surround and embrace the glowing purple dragon, but they are unable to contain it for long. As Charlie frees himself, he shoots upward in a spiral motion. His gaze is presented with an unusual picture in the place where an ordinary portal should have been. Touching the pink stone with his hand, Charlie realizes that the portal leading to the testing dimension is closed and cannot be opened from the outside. The guy quickly moves forward, trying to ram the stone and try to open the entrance with his elbow. Nothing works, and one can't help but think that those who have already passed the test cannot enter it again. Then Charlie tries to use 2 higher and 1 unique runes: Emperor's Aura, Nature, and Hunger. The forces begin to intertwine into one, forming an explosive mixture that is needed to destroy the portal. There is a powerful explosion. The wall collapses, forming a passage into the depths of the cave. Fog billows around the area, swept by clouds of wind. Finally, Charlie's eyes are met with familiar islands with brightly lit portals, with runes in the center. The guy looks at them inquiringly and tries to figure out which one his classmate might have gone to. His heart beats desperately, worrying about his friend. But Charlie tells him to calm down. He just needs to find the remaining traces of the girl's aura. As soon as he concentrates, one of the blue portals is illuminated by a bright flash. He literally spits out something that appears to be a girl with pink hair. It looks like she is unconscious. The guy's eyes widen at what he sees, and he can't help but say the name when he recognizes the girl as Cyan. Leaning forward and giving himself a boost to get there in time, Charlie scoops up his friend's limp body in his arms. He asks how she feels, if she's hurt, and she opens her eyes, staring at her savior in surprise. As Charlie moves forward, his foot hits a rock and he trips, flying forward with Cyan in his arms. They freeze a few centimeters away from each other, miraculously not touching lips, an embarrassed blush playing on both of their cheeks. Cyan indignantly orders her to be let go, and the guy, obediently fulfilling the request, smiles awkwardly, turning away. The girl boasts about her result, saying that she has finally broken through, and the highest rune, Thunder, appears in the air before her. The system projects an angry Lena into Charlie's view, and the Academy's leadership demands that he return immediately. The young men stand in front of the portal with a determined look, and Cian declares that he will go with Charlie. 3 men stand in front of a large portal that has formed in the air. As soon as he notices movement, one of them, with an angry expression on his face, orders Charlie to be grabbed immediately. Having left the alien dimension, the guy looks ahead gloomily but confidently. The girl standing next to him is also full of determination. Cyan steps forward, shielding her classmate and defending him, saying that Tart wanted to rape her and Charlie saved her. The parents of the murdered man intervene in the conversation, sharply stating that these words are a blatant lie, their looks full of anger. Cyan rushes to the director, remembering that he can read her memories. There is no way she could have faked them. The man agrees, noticeably calmer, and reaches his fingers towards the girl's head, from which particles similar to pink pollen emerge. Cyan obediently relaxes, allowing an outsider to delve into his brain, if only he could justify his loved one. Having scrolled through the memories like a film reel, the director finally calms down, and Tart's parents look at him as if he were a traitor. But the man says that Charlie will still be punished and suspends him from classes until the official entrance exams. Cyan considers the punishment serious, but the guy reassures her he was going to rest a little anyway to establish himself as a demigod. Half a month later, Charlie stands before a hooded figure and asks to be promoted to the level of a perfect demigod. He fulfilled the conditions. He stands before the golden statue, kneeling, and awaits the verdict with bated breath, catching every ripple of air. Finally, a sign from above follows. The stone in the forehead of the golden figure sparkles like a ray of sunshine. And the next moment, Charlie is illuminated by divine light, which, in his opinion, indicates that his offering has been approved. He rises from his knees and looks with thoughtful surprise at the statue emitting tongues of flame, and asks if his rank has increased. The answer comes quickly. Now the guy, even without transforming into a black dragon, feels that he has the powers of the rank monarch. But that's not all. Another light appears in the air, and Charlie, with a distrustful look, tries to understand its belonging and meaning. He checks his status window and marvels at the changes. His rank has reached as high as rank 5 and has been granted the soul-eating eye. Charlie becomes thoughtful and begins to talk about fusion, suggesting that his divine energy is exactly that. Surrounding himself with the necessary aura, he summons darkness, black dragon transformation, and plant fusion technique. To the above, he adds the Emperor's Aura, mixing the energies into one dense lump right in front of the golden statue. The lump flies up to the creator and enters his body. A moment later, a transformed man-dragon appears before the sculpture. Trying out his new powers, Charlie is once again convinced that fusion is an incredible technique, and it is not for nothing that it has a unique rank. Since he can now combine not only the force, but also objects, the guy decides to try it on his creatures, summoning locusts into his hand. The little insect flutters in the air, unsuspecting, and Charlie begins to slowly feed her with his mixed aura. Moments later, something completely different appears before God, something almost 3 times larger than his own size. Charlie is convinced that he has indeed become stronger, but he can't help but notice that the fusion is using up too much divine power. He goes to check something else, and small red crystals surrounded by fiery energy appear above his hand. They intertwine into one larger one, and Charlie finds a great way to earn extra divinity points. He clearly likes it, and the guy laughs contentedly, continuing his favorite column, experiments. The guard says that outsiders are not allowed to enter the Imperial Academy, and the man standing in front of him silently and discontentedly glares at the man. This man's name is Hugo, and he is a true god. He is angry, but forces himself to calm down, realizing that there are even gods of higher rank here. He is looking for Charlie because he took his master's thing, and is seriously thinking about a way to infiltrate the academy. Voices are heard nearby, and Hugo listens in as Tart's parents cry about how they can't just let their son's killer go. A man approaches the inconsolable parents and begins a conversation with the fact that it seems that fate itself brought them together. He suggests that they unite. Tart's parents express their indignation to Lena, who defends the honor of her student and the academy as a whole. Hugo stands nearby. He takes out a device that looks like a smartphone and starts the process of carrying out the necessary diagnostics. The system detects Charlie standing nearby, and the man realizes with delight that this student is the thief. Hugo understands that if he delivers it to his god, he will reward him generously, but wonders how to do this. The angry parents speak inhumanely of Charlie, while Lena stoically continues to defend her student, telling the Scots to leave. Tart's father tries to do something else, but Hugo stops him, putting his hand on his shoulder. He says that they are leaving. As the door closes behind the men, Scott asks if they are going to let Charlie get away with it, but the true God retorts. He says that from now on the boy is his concern, and the parents will only have to wait for retribution, and they leave in anger. Hugo comes closer to the door and starts to peek. He sees Lena, who asks the student to ignore her. The woman says that Tart is to blame for his own death. Charlie was only protecting a defenseless girl and himself. He asks not to worry. Lena likes this attitude. She reminds him that now the guy should focus on increasing his divine rank. She hands the student a pass to the ancient ruins of one of the outer worlds and gives him the opportunity to try his luck there. Lena advises her ward to dive head-on into the demigod competition. This will be very useful in the future, Charlie thanks her. Hugo finds the words about the ancient ruins interesting, and his face expresses anticipation. As the boy walks past him with a satisfied smile, the man makes a silent promise to meet him at the designated place. Looking at the pass, Charlie is surprised to see that it can be used for one more person and thinks that going alone would be a waste. A hologram of Tom's teacher appears in front of the guy. He greets his former student and asks how he is doing at the academy. Charlie returns the greeting and shares that he has achieved demigod status and offers to join him in the ancient ruins. The man is sincerely happy for his former ward, wondering when he managed to become so strong, and accepts the offer. The interlocutor rewards Tom with a bright smile and announces the time and place of a potential meeting. Charlie sits at home, excited to select relics that could serve him well in the upcoming adventure. He looks at the artifacts he has and his gaze catches on the Law of Gluttony, the Stone of Revival, and the Book of Clones. Among all the others, his attention is drawn to the 4th level sacred artifact, Thunderbolt. Smiling serenely and resolutely clenching his fist, the guy promises himself not to give in to anyone this time. Remembering Cyan, Charlie suggests that it might take months to return, during which time the girl will immerse herself in meditation. He comes to her, and the classmate asks about the purpose of the visit, and the guy shares that he will soon go to the outer world and wanted to say goodbye. The girl wonders why he wants to leave so soon, since they only just arrived home, and he says goodbye, feeling awkward. Charlie turns to leave, but Cyan grabs his elbow, offering to walk together. The girl is glad that she postponed the meditation, because otherwise they would not have been able to say goodbye, and she is also worried. The shadow seal appears in her hands and a smile blossoms on her face. Cyan says that although she has many limitations, she is useful. The girl gives it to Charlie, and he understands that it will definitely come in handy, because the rebel demands the absorption of souls through the Soul Eater. He thanks Cyan for the gift, noting its extreme usefulness for himself, and the girl rewards her interlocutor with a pleasant smile. Suddenly she approaches the guy and hugs him sharply, regretting that she can't go with him this time and asking him to be careful. Charlie is surprised. Unable to contain the rush of feelings, the guy covers the girl's fragile shoulder with his hand and, pulling her even closer to him, kisses her. Now Cyan is surprised. But the confusion doesn't last long. The student immediately responds to the kiss, closing her eyes. And Charlie is glad that the girl didn't push him away. The guy shyly pulls Cyan towards him, covering her with his arms. The girl also feels awkward, but does not move away. On the contrary, she smiles. Charlie asks the girl not to worry, promising that he will return soon, and she, in turn, asks him to be careful. Both are still embarrassed. The next day, when they met at the agreed place, the boy asked the teacher, who was already there, why he had come so early. He says that he was unable to sleep properly and suggests moving forward, and Charlie begins the necessary preparations. The man bites his finger in response until it bleeds, repeating the actions of his ward. Their combined blood sprinkles the artifact, causing the process of movement to begin. The emblem bursts into flames and begins to crumble into pieces. The fragments of the object form a portal between themselves, opening its strange doors, and one of those standing in front of it offers to go inside. On the other side is an ancient battlefield with wooden structures that look like either barns or military barracks. A man approaches Charlie and Tom and, pointing to the side, informs them that this is their temporary home. He points to a thin stick, and Charlie is outraged by the primitive conditions. The man meanwhile suggests that they contact him with any questions. Charlie gets angry, shouting after the man and asking him to provide them with another place to live, and he, extremely pleased with himself, silently leaves. With a sweet smile, Tom suggests that his partner take their time, but first check what's inside. But he doesn't change his displeased expression. But he still gives in, and together they look inside the temporary residence provided. To the younger boy's surprise, inside there are real mansions. The space is much larger than it seemed from the outside. Charlie pickily says that this will do for now, and also notes that there is a real hidden cave inside. They find a reference book inside, and the boy begins to study it, sharing the knowledge he has gained with his elder. But he doesn't like the battle conditions. He can't imagine how he will fight if the number of creatures he can summon is limited. Tom grins good-naturedly and asks the younger one to calm down. He wants to check the connection to the tent control system. Charlie actually calms down a little, exhaling heavily and trying to satisfy the former teacher's interest. Afterwards, he checks his capabilities and concludes that he will have to choose the option with the maximum number of summoned creatures. Snapping his fingers, Tom also summons his own creatures, smiling with satisfaction. The system notifies that only creatures summoned in advance in the tent are subject to control. The loss is not replenished automatically. Divine title fragments can be found on the ancient battlefield, the rarest of which have increased value. Identical shards can be combined into a single title, or exchanged for other shards or tent upgrade materials. Charlie is inspired by the last part, planning to upgrade the tent once they collect the title shards. Moving forward, Tom shares information with the younger one. He studied the options for obtaining fragments. They can be obtained after defeating the deities. They are divided into ranks here. They can be distinguished by the aura under their feet. The lowest rank are deities with a white aura. It gives first-level fragments. Those with a blue aura give shards of the second level, and deities with a red aura are the most dangerous and give shards of the 5th level. Something catches Charlie's eye, and he turns his piercing gaze towards the source of his interest. He does not allow the elder to go further, stopping him with a wave of his hand and asking him to remain silent. He looks at his companion questioningly. Charlie smiles, asking Tom to look at the same thing he does. A creature is walking nearby, with a white aura visible under its feet. In the hand of this man in light clothes is a weapon that resembles either a staff or a spear, and white threads extend from his entire being. Tom notes that although the aura is white, judging by the brightness, this representative of the lower rank of deities is quite powerful. Charlie snaps his fingers with a smile, calling on his primary representative, the Dark Locust, to test the enemy's strength. The modified insect appears right there, grinning predatorily at its potential enemy. The next moment it rushes forward, ready to attack. The locust directs a dark aura at its opponent, who still walks serenely, either unaware of the threat or not afraid. But now he holds his weapon out in front of him, his expression still as serene as before. The opponent's attack hits a hard object. The dark locust is amazed, as this attack causes one of its legs to break, shattering into pieces. The insect gets angry, spinning around quickly and deciding to use another of its techniques. Many dark fragments fly towards the white deity, and now his expression becomes puzzled. The shards break into a dark energy haze and surround one of the deity's legs. The dark haze quickly grows, absorbing the aura of its victim and entangling them in its now physical tentacles. The locust, meanwhile, is already attacking with its next attack, which it managed to prepare during the creature's confusion. The blow hits straight into the chest, creating a hole through the humanoid body. The next moment, several pieces of fragments emerge from it, in the center of which certain runes burn. Tom advises the younger one to collect them as soon as possible. Even though these are fragments of the lowest level, there are 8 of them, a good catch. Charlie follows his elder's advice, and the flame of the first-level Indomitable Valor title dances above his hand. The guy asks if this is really the divine title sealed in the fragments, and the man confirms his words. The elder explains that although this title is only of the first level, it has an extremely useful spell. Its value is twice as high. Charlie is glad that he invited Tom along, believing that with him the hunt will definitely go faster, and Tom smiles. A locust lands on the guy's finger, and he informs his partner that the insects have found new targets. A swarm circles around the divine beings, not allowing them to escape. They guard potential prey for their master. Charlie notes their untrustworthy appearance, believing that they are unlikely to produce as many shards as the previous deity. But Tom doesn't want to let them go just like that, saying that even a fly is meat. Several of his creatures appear next to him. Charlie doesn't mind. He smiles. Calling his representatives, he agrees to destroy every single one of them. Together, Tom and his younger brother unleash a series of powerful attacks, causing the space around them to literally explode. Dying divine beings leave behind first-level fragments. Tom notes that there are not enough fragments. Even with one second-level fragment, it is not enough. Charlie supports him. The locust gives the guy the information again, and he shares it with his friend, with 2 unknown people behind them watching them. Charlie grins, asking the teacher not to worry. The guy is ready to teach a lesson to those who set their eyes on their prey. One of the strangers tells the other that Tom and Charlie have few creatures. He considers them newbies and thinks that it will be easy to deal with them. The hunters discuss a cunning plan among themselves, wanting to observe the newcomers for a while and then rob them. Turning around with displeasure, Tom suggests that the younger one return to the camp to process the received title shards. But he asks the elder not to worry, believing that everything is under control, because the dark locust informs him about every step of the observers. Tom sounds like he's calming down. He even allows himself to smile, but he still looks worried. He notes to himself with a grin that his student is calming him down, and he kindly asks his kids to continue in the same spirit. The locust flies up to Charlie once again and tells him something, but now the guy's gaze becomes worried because of what he heard. He immediately informs his partner that the would-be observers have discovered a deity with a purple aura under their feet. The purple color foretells a shard of at least the 3rd level, and the friends go hunting, because together they have a high chance. The sand rises up in tiny particles, spreading clouds of dust throughout the area. If you look closely, you can discern in this fog-like haze the outlines on the ground, which are the defeated divine beings. One of the creatures is still alive, standing with a feather fan in its hands and a purple aura swirling beneath its feet. Watching from his hiding place, Charlie concludes that judging by the creature's battered appearance, it has just emerged from a brutal fight. Tom notices that it destroyed several lords. The effects are similar to the Wind Elemental Master. The teacher's creatures will be able to delay him for a short time. Charlie suggests wearing him down, and the man suggests a complex strategy, but the boy counters, believing that this deity is not worth it. Tom asks what their plan is then, and the answer is a pair of black dragon man wings shooting into the air. Charlie charges forward with a determined look, believing that a frontal attack is the best strategy at the moment. The creature, noticing an approaching enemy, raises its fan, which apparently also serves as a weapon at the ready. The distance separating the potential opponents is insignificant, and the divine being begins to gather streams of energy around itself. Charlie puts his hands out in front of him, preparing to attack, and a mist appears underneath them with the corresponding rune in the dark center. When the smoke flies up to the divine being, almost hitting his solar plexus with a small whirlpool, he is lost, amazed. Charlie, meanwhile, fishes out a sword from his inventory and, firmly grasping its handle, leans forward. He rushes headlong towards the bewildered enemy, his dark blade gleaming menacingly. A powerful explosion occurs, throwing up a cloud of dust into the air and announcing the successful strike on target. Purple fragments fly out from the epicenter in all directions. They also reach Charlie and Tom's pursuers, who, catching the fragments, laugh happily, believing that they have hit the jackpot. Charlie and Tom also collect the fragments that have reached them. The dragon boy smiles contentedly, picking up one of them. One of the pursuers looks enviously at the couple, noting out loud that she has as many as 8 pieces. His companion also looks at his enemies with hostility, but acknowledges Charlie's strength, reminding him of the danger of encountering him. He suggests that his partner leave, since they have already received several 3rd-level fragments without any losses or effort. But they fail to do this. A large black shadow with outstretched wings falls onto the ground on which they stand. Charlie is furious, speaking about the audacity of these people openly and how they dared to appropriate what rightfully belongs to him. But men do not want to give back so easily what they have taken. They give not the most reasonable arguments in their favor. Smiling, Charlie notices that his interlocutors do not value their lives, and sharply raises his right hand. He deals a dragon strike to his opponents, materializing a huge shield in front of him, the energy power of which causes stones to fly in all directions. An explosion occurs, sending dark fragments flying in all directions. The bodies of those who previously considered Charlie and Tom their prey also crack and split into several pieces. They drop several blue and purple shards with a rune on them, which head straight for Charlie. The guy smugly rakes them into an armful and still wonders how such weak creatures dared to covet what belongs to him. He stands next to Tom, both smiling, and the teacher summons a dark purple flame above his open palm. It spawns shards, and the man, still smiling, says that if they sell it at the camp, they can upgrade their tent. Meanwhile, a portal opens near the camp. Laramie and Harry emerge from the portal, The former expresses admiration for his partner for being able to get a pass here, and Harry grins. He says that it is a trifle for him, but to himself, he thinks that now he has no shortage of such resources after the reward from the great deity, all thanks to the information provided. But suddenly the men hear a familiar voice and turn their stunned glances in his direction. Charlie discusses with Tom an expansion of their tent, which can be obtained after a portion of the rewards provided in the future. And the next moment, the gazes of all four involuntarily intersect, and deathly silence reigns. Tom is the first to break the silence, greeting the men with a smile and saying that he didn't expect to see them here. Laramie doesn't answer, he just grunts discontentedly, but his mood can be sensed by the aura swirling around him. Harry turns out to be more accommodating. He even allows himself to smile and says that their meeting is a real stroke of luck. The blonde asks Charlie if he knows how hard the man has been looking for him since they missed each other in the ruins, and he expresses confusion. The guy tries to understand to himself how the demigod was able to guess the student's true identity, since he was then wearing a mask that hid it. Harry admits that he may have been mistaken and compliments his son's former classmate, surprised that he has already become a demigod. The man was furious inside, still remembering the insult to his son, because of this, he would not be able to raise divinity. Tom and Charlie politely say that they still have other things to do, so they are forced to leave their unexpected interlocutors and say goodbye. Tom thinks about leaving here immediately, because he feels that otherwise the men might start a fight. Laramie asks Harry if he is really going to let Charlie go so easily, since it was he who crippled his son. But he says that there is no need to rush yet. If the guy does not leave the ancient battlefield, they will definitely meet. The teacher agrees. Entering the tent, Tom expresses his concern about the people he met, believing that they will certainly cause them problems in the future. Charlie asks why the teacher downplays their own strengths and extols the enemy. In his opinion, there is nothing special about them. Tom says that Charlie knows little about Harry and shares that he recently gained the support of a very influential person and gained power. The man believes that the guy now needs to save as many of his creatures as possible because a big test awaits him soon. And the guy says that the chance to be here is very rare. He will not refuse this opportunity even because of Harry. Tom is angry because of the stubbornness of his ward. In order to be able to counter Harry, Charlie used the Eye of the Soul Eater to greatly increase his rebel title in a matter of days. After 6 consecutive buffs, Rebel's experience finally reached its maximum, opening the possibility of evolution for him. Charlie receives his divine spell and is given 2 options to choose from, but he doesn't want to choose. Holding the sword in his hand, he ponders whether to follow the path of a warrior, since the first option is the Rebel sword. However, the Rebel weapon converts ranged physical attacks into magical ones and vice versa, and can fuse with other firearms. He doesn't think for long, and the next moment the sword filled with magical energy that was there originally appears in his hand again. The choice is made.
The events are taking place in the Dunghai University building.